Hey guys, I've been asked a lot to talk a lot about quite a few of these knives in particular, more so than any others. A lot of people ask me to talk about the ELB Pro Flipper and how it compares to other knives, especially compared to the EX10. Well, I'll get asked a lot about the BC and how it compares to other things and how I like it and what I don't like about it. Likewise with the Santiago, not a lot of people have a Santiago to talk about, and not many people actually flip them either. They're more of a collector's piece than anything, at least in the balisong community. Most people don't flip them. Likewise with the Balibalistic. So much work gets put into these two knives, and that they cost a lot of money. And in costing so much, most people say, oh man, if I'm going to spend this much money on a knife, I'm not going to flip it. I don't want anything to happen to it. Well, I see what you're saying, and I understand you don't want to take your money and thrash it and throw it up against the wall or some crap like that. But at the same time, if you are spending that much money onto something, why not use it? Why let it just sit there and look good? Which, I know that works for some people, but for me, I'm going to spend the kind of money on a knife, I'm going to flip it. So I want to talk in particular about the Balibalistic. This is my first Balibalistic to own. I have flipped other Balibalistics, but first one to own for myself, and it's amazing to say the least. It's awesome. I love it. It's channel construction, titanium handles, of course, purple anodization, and gold, which is actually awesome because that's my school colors. Yep, go Tigers. LSU is my school, so that's a plus. I love that. It's got a super thick blade, which is awesome. I'm a fan of thickness when it comes to handles and blades. I like thicker blades in particular because whenever you're doing certain, actually almost any move or trick, the surface area is greater than that of a thinner blade, and so it distributes the weight more evenly across your finger, and so it feels better and there's less force applied in one particular spot on your finger, which to me feels better, and I like that a lot. What else? It's also got tapered handles. I like the tapered handles. That's pretty cool. I've flipped other knives and borrowed other knives with the tapered handles, but I've never owned one. So as you can see, it starts off thick, and then it gets thinner as it goes down. Really cool. Whenever you're doing moves like a twirl or something, it's hard to get in frame. But whenever you are, it rotates around the fingers very nicely. So I like that. So I'm a fan of that. It turned out really well. Sean did a good job with that. It's got a Spanish Bowie blade, or Spanish Bowie, however you say it. I say Spanish Bowie. It's a Bowie style blade. And this has a Tanto, not a Tonto. Just clarifying that. Tonto is the Lone Ranger's sidekick. Tanto is the blade style. Anyways, love the blade style. It is beautiful. It's stunning. It looks a lot like the Benchmade 43, except way more attention to detail. Obviously, this is a custom, and the Benchmade 43 is a production knife. Now, speaking of the Benchmade 43, this knife does remind me of the Benchmade 43 in the terms of size, like length of handles and length of the blade. I'd say if I had a 43 T-latch with me, which I don't, but if I did, and I opened them up and put them next to each other, the Balibalistics would be a little bit longer, but it feels very similar in hand. It feels like a thicker version of a 43 T-latch. The thicker handles, obviously, which is really nice when flipping. Thicker blade, of course. The handles are a little bit shorter than my Benchmade 43 spring latch, and it's overall 9.5 inches, if I remember correctly. The solid, the lockup is rock solid. I've never had a knife lock up this well. I mean, you see that? I gotta really squeeze the handles to get it to lock up. And it's the same in the closed position. Man, yeah. So you don't want to do that over and over and over and over again, unless you want to break it in a little more. Oh, I don't know what else I want to talk about. Oh, actually, there was a few more things that I wanted to mention. So the fit and finish is superb. I mean, it's you get what you pay for, and you are paying for a Balibalistics. So the work, I mean, you expect the work to be top notch and phenomenal, and let me tell you, it is. This is, yeah, it's definitely the best custom knife I've ever handled and owned. Best custom built knife. It is fantastic. Sean really paid a lot of attention to detail. You can see there's no wiggle. There's a little bit of wiggle room in the latch, not much at all. The handle play is minimal. Can't see too well, but the pivot is flush. It's not too far countersunk, or it's not poking out a little bit. It's just perfectly flush. As I pointed out, the lockup is rock solid in the open and closed position. Now, as a piece that you would have around the house and look at it and flip it a little bit around the house, or whatever you want to do with it, it is awesome for that. Now, this knife was built to flip, but it was not built as a dedicated flipper, or dedicated just to flipping. Or maybe I should reset it this way. It's built to be able to flip, but it's not built for flipping, if that makes sense. So it does flip really nicely and really well. But if I were to build a custom dedicated flipper, now of course this is just me, and Sean obviously builds it however he wants, which is totally great. But he did ask me to talk about my thoughts on it, so I am giving my thoughts. And if I were to build a more dedicated flipper style, I would make the handles a little bit longer, which I know he has made a dedicated flipper model, and the handles, if I remember correctly, they were a little bit longer. It's been a couple years since I've handled one of his dedicated flippers, though, but he hasn't made a dedicated flipper in a while. I don't remember the last one that he made. But yeah, I personally would make the handles a little bit longer. And honestly, that's just about it, because everything else is awesome. It's got good balance. It is rock solid in terms of lockup, in terms of handle play, fit and finish, comfort, all the things that you would look for in a knife. I mean, it's there. And even as is, I am perfectly happy with it, and I love this thing, and it does flip extremely well. If I had to compare it to something, like I mentioned earlier, I would compare it to a Benchmade 43 T-latch. But much thicker and much better. So I said all that to say that this is a great knife, top notch, and I just love it. It's so beautiful. I mean, I could look at this thing and just hold it all day and forget about all my other knives. And yeah. Anyways, I really like this knife a lot. I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you want me to talk about another knife in particular, let me know. I'll try to get around to it, but I promised Sean that I would talk about this knife. And so I have. Anyways, I can't wait to get another knife from Sean. I am really looking forward to my next Balibalistic to add next to this baby right here. So, I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know if you want me to talk about another one of my knives. Thank you.